Hey, folks, the American West. Thanks for joining me as we dive into some classic literature. And this is my first of hopefully going to be many of these. And I find the easiest way for me to do this is just go live. So today we're going to be reading about John Muir. He is a huge influence in my life and got me to where I'm at today. I lived in some of the national parks and followed in some of his footsteps. And like I started out with, the American West, it's a big place and evokes a lot of wonder in people's minds. I came out here eventually to Utah to become a big mountain skier after my firefighting job, and found this book to be quite entertaining living here in Utah for a while. So with that, let me go ahead and get into reading from John Muir. This is a letter dated from 1877, May 19th, while he was here in Utah. And it reads, Utah has just been blessed with one of the grandest storms I have ever beheld this side of the Sierra. The mountains are laden with fresh snow. Wild streams are swelling and booming down the canyons. And out in the valley of the Jordan is 1,000 rain pools are gleaming in the sun. With reference to the development of fertile storms bearing snow and rain, the greater portion of the calendar springtime of Utah has been winter. In all the upper canyons of the mountains, the snow is now from 5 to 10 feet deep or more, and most of it has fallen since March. Almost every other day during the last 3 weeks, small local storms have been falling on the Wasatch and Ochre Mountains, while the Jordan Valley remained dry and sun-filled. Has an interesting spelling, Wasatch, Wahshath, TCH. But on the afternoon of Thursday, the 17th, ultimo, wind, rain, and snow filled the whole basin, driving wildly over valley and plain from range to range, bestowing their benefactions of most cordial and harmonious storm measures. The oldest saints say they have never witnessed a more violent storm of this kind since the first settlements of Zion. And while the gale from the northwest, with which the storm began, was rocking their adobe walls, uprooting trees, and darkening the streets with billows of dust and sand, some of them seemed inclined to guess that the terrible phenomenon was one of the signs of the times of which their preachers are so constantly reminding them. The beginning of the outpouring of the treasured wrath of the Lord upon the Gentiles for killing of Joseph Smith. To me, it seemed a cordial outpouring of nature's love. But it's easy to differ with salt latter days and everything, storms, wives, politics, and religion. About an hour before the storm reached the city, I was so fortunate as to be out with a friend on the banks of the Jordan, enjoying the scenery. Clouds, with peculiarly restless and self-conscious gestures, were marshaling themselves along the mountaintops and sending out long overlapping wings across the valley. And even where no cloud was visible, an obscuring film absorbed the sunlight, giving rise to a cold bluish darkness. Nevertheless, distant objects along the boundaries of the landscape were revealed with wonderful distinctness in this weird, subdued, cloud-sifted light. The mountains in particular, with the forests on their flanks, their mazy lace-like canyons, and the wombs of ancient glaciers, and their marvelous profusion of ornate sculpture were most impressively manifest. One would fancy that a man might be clearly seen walking on the snow at a distance of 20 or 30 miles. While we were reveling in this rare, ungarnished grandeur, turning from range to range, studying the darkening sky, I listened to the still small voices of the flowers at our feet. Some of the denser clouds came down, crowning and wreathing with the highest peaks and dropping long gray fringes whose smooth linear structure showed that snow was beginning to fall. Of these partial storms, there was soon 10 or 12, arranged in 2 rows, while the main Jordan Valley between them lay, as yet, profound calm. At 4:30 p.m., a dark brownish cloud appeared close down on the plain towards the lake, extending from the northern extremity of the Ochre Range in a northeasterly direction as far as the eye could reach. Its peculiar color and structure excited our attention without enabling us to decide certainly as to its character, but we were not left long in doubt, for in a few minutes it came sweeping over the valley in a wide uproar. A torrent of wind, thick with sand and dust, advancing with a most majestic front, rolling and overcoming like a gigantic sea wave. Scarcely it was in plain sight ere it was upon us, racing across the Jordan, over the city and up the slopes of the Wasatch, eclipsing all the landscapes in its course. The the bending trees, the dust streamers, the wild onrush of everything movable, giving it an appreciable visibility and that rendered it grand and inspiring. This gale portion of the storm lasted over an hour, and then came the blessed rain and the snow through the snow all through the night. And the next day, the snow and rain altering and blending in the valley. It is long since I have seen snow coming into a city. The crystal flakes falling in the foul streets was a pitiful sight. Notwithstanding the vaunted refining influences of towns, purity of all kinds, pure hearts, pure streams, pure snow, must here be exposed to terrible trials. City Creek, coming from its high glacial fountains, enters the streets of the Mormon Zion, pure as an angel. But how does it leave? Even roses and lilies and gardens most loved are tainted with 1,000 impurities as soon as they unfold. I heard Brigham Young in the tabernacle the other day warning his people that if they did not mend their manners, angels would not come into their houses, though perchance they might be sauntering by with little else to do than chat with them. Possibly there may be Salt Lake families sufficiently pure for angel society, but I was not pleased with the reception they gave the small snow angels that God sent among them the other night. Only children hailed them with delight. The old latter days seemed to shun them. I should like to see how Mr. Young, the lake prophet, would meet such messengers. But to return to the storm, even toward the evening of the 18th, it began to wither. The snowy skirts of the Wasatch Mountains appeared beneath the lifting fringes of the clouds, and the sun shone out through the colored windows, producing one of the most glorious after-storm effects I ever witnessed. Looking across the Jordan, the gray, sagey slopes from the base of the Ochre Mountains were covered with a thick, plushy cloth of gold, soft and ethereal, as a cloud not merely tinted and gilded like a rock with autumn sunshine, but deeply muffled beyond recognition. Surely nothing in heaven, nor any mansion of the Lord in all his worlds, could be more gloriously carpeted. Other portions of the plain were flushed with red and purple. All the mountains and the clouds above them were painted in corresponding loveliness. Earth and sky, around and round, the entire landscape was one ravishing revelation of color, infinitely varied and interblended. I've seen many a glorious sunset beneath lifting storm clouds on the mountains, but nothing comparable with this. I felt as if new arrived in some other far off world. The mountains, the plains, the sky all seemed new. Other experiences seemed but to have prepared me for this, as souls prepared for heaven. To describe the colors on a single mountain would, if it were possible at all, require many a volume, purples and yellows and delicious pearly grays, divinely toned and interblended, so richly put on one seemed to be looking down through the ground as though through the sky. Looking down through the ground as though a sky. The disbanding clouds lingered lovingly about the mountains, filling the canyons like tinted wool, rising and drooping around the topmost peaks, fondling the rugged bases, or sailing alongside, trailed their lustrous fringes through the pines as if taking a last view of their accomplished work. Then came darkness, and the glorious day was done. This afternoon, the Utah mountains and valleys seem to belong to our own very world again. They're covered with calm and sunshine. Down here on the banks of the Jordan, larks and redwings are singing, swinging on the rushes, and the balmy air is instinct with mortal life. The wild flowers, the grass, and the farmer's grain are fresh as if like the snow, they had come out of heaven, and the last of the angel clouds are fleeing from the mountains. He does a pretty good job of describing how magnificent it could be here. There's a few people who have written songs about skiing in the pink light up in the Wasatch, and that truly is one of the more magical moments. Is those late afternoons. He definitely inspires me to what I do when I go hiking and skiing in the mountains and catch that late afternoon after storm light. It's a magnificent thing. I hope you could all enjoy it someday yourself. Thanks for joining me live, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Appreciate you.